Okay, it's Thursday. About time to do a video. I got remnants of different kinds of obsidian, cinnamon obsidian and stuff. Smoky obsidian, heat treats, Armenian. I think I'm going to do this Dacite, cinnamon Dacite. Yeah. I've had more requests for this one than the other ones. I'm hesitating on the slab because I don't like working slabs. I was thinking of just doing this with a different method. I usually work this with indirect percussion, right? I was thinking of doing it all with pressure, but when I get to it, I'm going to do it with indirect percussion. So, yeah. I don't really like the pressure work. Okay. All right, hold on, phone call. Okay, where was I? I don't remember. Okay, let's see. I know I picked this one. Let me see. I'm going to use steel on it. One of these days I will put in the description box what tools I use. I think I've done that before, and no one looks in the description box anyway, so I suppose I'll just answer questions as they come. Yeah, they wonder if this is steel or aluminum, and sometimes they think it's copper. This is 3/8 inch steel. Home Depot or Lowe's or local hardware store sometimes has these. I'm gonna take the glove off. For now, let's see how it works. It's got a curve in it, so I'm gonna lose length. Okay, it's got a big dip and a curve, so the center line is gonna have to be up here, which means it's above this area. So I'm going to have to lose a lot of this right there. Yep. Unfortunately, three and 3/8. I'm going to have to lose about a 1/4 inch. Probably. See how I do without the gloves first. Let's see. I gotta organize my stuff. Hold on. Get my drink out of the way because these flakes will fly into my drink. My cold water. All right. It's over 110 degrees. So I don't have a thermometer in the shop. I just go by my phone, right? I need to get a thermometer in here. That way, I'll know exactly. It's 110. At least. My son calls it Death Valley temperatures. Death Valley. Death Valley heat. Yeah, this is like a Dacite. But it does have a little bit of translucency, see that? So it's not exactly like a Dacite. It's just weird. Yep. Weird Obsidian. But cool, because it naps well. It's not all crackly, crunchy, and bubbly like some of this poor quality silver sheen. There's good quality silver sheen, and there's poor quality silver sheen. And I don't even know if it's supposed to be called silver sheen or not when it's poor quality. But anything with lots of bubbles in it and stuff usually is poor quality. So some of that silver sheen looking stuff has lots of bubbles in it, and it naps like crumbly hard candy, which is to say it doesn't nap well at all. But this one naps well by comparison. If I was a little more careful, I wouldn't get those little fingernail step fractures. But it's early in the game, so I'm not worried about those. Alright, I'm going to start hitting it harder, so I need the glove. I don't want any interruptions, even if it's just a little cut. I don't want any interruptions at all. See, I don't want these little cuts I get like that. They're no big deal, but they interfere with the napping. Alright. What kind of a point am I going to make? I don't know. Maybe I'll just make a biface and leave you in limbo. Now, is this an artifact? Was it an artifact before I started messing with it? I don't know. It looks like a flake, but flakes can be made by nature, so. You never know. Yeah, see, hard hits like that, I can feel it hit my glove. The shards. Yep. See, those I can feel hitting my hand. And if I don't have a glove, I would have to be very careful about how I strike and drive these flakes so it doesn't cut my fingers. And I used to not wear the gloves when I first started, way back in the day, because it got distracting. I hated the distraction of the gloves. So I'd wear tape because it's closer in to my fingers. See, these are squishy tipped because my fingers don't go all the way to the tips. But I've gotten used to it. Because now that I'm napping all the time, I would be cutting myself all the time if I didn't wear the gloves. Before I would cut myself, you know, once or twice a week, but I wouldn't be napping every day, so it's no big deal. But now, I don't nap every day, but almost. And I do have to nap every day if I want to keep up with everything. There's some weeks where I can't seem to catch up unless I nap every day. Yeah. And I can't rush it though. When I'm napping, I can't nap quickly or more quickly than I'm used to, because then I start breaking everything, especially toward the end. I hardly ever break anything in the beginning of the bifacing process. But if I rush it, I break stuff toward the end. when I'm trying to thin down the thin piece. Yep. That's when it gets dicey. If you've been watching the channel, you know that's when it gets dicey. Alright, so length, it's 3 1/8, so I've lost a 1/4 inch so far. Might lose a little bit more, but it's pretty flat now, so I shouldn't lose too much more. Alright, I'm going to shape it. I've already taken off the large flakes, you know, relatively large compared to the size of the workpiece. Now most of these flakes are going to be much smaller than this one. Yep. I don't know. I don't know what to make from it. I'm going to lose a lot of this here. And I'll lose a lot of this on this side. If I take this off, I'll lose a little bit of the tip, but I don't care. I need to get rid of that bump there, so I'm going to take some of this back and then shoot flakes in. Because right now that platform isn't, or that edge is not low enough to do the perfect flaking attempt. Do I like to do perfect flaking attempts? No. But if I can get close, that's fine. That's good enough. I say the perfect flaking attempt just to keep it in mind, you know. That's something to aspire to. I never have the perfect flaking attempts. It's always a kind of expedient. Because the perfect setup takes a lot of time. And in my view, if it takes a lot of time, it wastes a lot of time. If you end up with a piece that's not broken, yeah, it can be worth it. For sure. But only if the material is very breaky. Then yeah, you want to take time. Just because the material is crackly or breaky or whatever you want to call it, some stuff is so brittle that just by the nature of the material you have to take your time. This one you don't have to. It's nice stuff. It's a lot like nothing I've ever knapped. Yeah. I don't know. I can't compare this to anything else. It's very weird. High quality Dacite. That's the only thing I can think of. It's not like triple flow because it's not that highly flexible, very modern glass-like stuff. It's just not modern glass-like. And it's not highly flexible either. It is reasonably flexible. See how when it terminates with lots of fingernails, it's not as good as the highly flexible stuff. The highly flexible stuff will terminate and feather out very well. It won't leave those big fingernail steps. It'll just feather out and just pop those right out because it's very flexible toward the end, and it has the strength to pop those out. The more fingernail step fractures you get, the less flexible it is, in case you're wondering. Yeah, and yes, stone is flexible to a certain degree. And the Obsidians, I think, are the most flexible things that you can knap, or the most flexible stones that you can knap. The Obsidians. Everything else, not so much. Although there are very nice flints and cherts. It's not quite the same as a flexible obsidian. Uh-oh. It's going to want me to hit hard on thin pieces, and that's when I'm going to run into trouble. Yeah, I can't thin this down too much without taking too much risk. I don't want to take a lot of risk on this piece because it's so unusual. It's the only piece like it that I have. Yeah, I'm holding back a little bit, and it's affecting the flaking. Yeah, dang it. I need a good bold flake down here, and I'm holding back because it can overshoot. But then I get the crunches, I get the step fractures and the island building. If I hold back, I get the newbie mistakes. I gotta take some more risks. Alright, I can't see. Let's see. In my glasses have got dust or something. I don't know. Let's see. Hold on while I pause for station identification. Correct the problem with the glasses. And I'm getting itches on my hand. I don't know what's itching me. Something's itching me. This is not going to work. It's too delicate for the gloves. Okay. No distractions. Yeah, it's not like anything I've knapped, so it's going to take a little bit to get used to it. Gotta adjust quickly though, because it's getting almost to the end. I can't be having this stuff happen at the end. All this crackly stuff. All right. Extremely hard hit. So that one was pretty big. That's a pretty big flake for this size workpiece. But yeah, I need those. Yep. All right, hold on. I gotta make it more narrow. Some guys can pressure flake it at this point because it's less than 2 inches. Yeah, it's an inch. Yeah, if it's 1.5 inches or less, guys can run flakes all the way across. Some of you guys. Now on this stuff, I don't know, because it's not your typical obsidian. It looks like it has glossy areas and dull areas. Glossy and dull. All in the same piece. which is, you know, it's not rare, because that's what happens with the gray and black, but it's just so odd with this color. It just looks odd. I don't know. Should I improve the edge with pressure? I'm thinking I should take it down with pressure flaking first. Yeah, it's already thin enough to make a piece from it. Let me just improve the edges a little bit with pressure. Where is it? I used to have it. There it is. Every time I vacuum all the glass chips from the previous episodes, my tools get all messed up. I mean, the location of my tools. Yeah, because I had to go up on the top shelf of my tool shelves and vacuum all the Obsidian. Not so much the chert flakes. Anyway, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? Should I zoom in so that everyone can see exactly what to do, but yet not able to do it because it still isn't clear enough what I'm doing? Yeah. It's a tease. Whenever I zoom in, it's a tease because you don't know exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. You don't know. Why don't you know? Because I don't know either. I'm just flaking it. And after years of just flaking it, just flake it till you make it, this is the result. You don't know exactly what's going on. I've just been flaking it till I make it for years. Yeah. I am trying to focus more on exacting and very tedious pressure flaking techniques. I'm trying to focus on that because it doesn't do me any good anymore to skip it. I gotta be aware of it, how to do it the slow, methodical, vomit inducing, precise way. Yep. And if you're new to the channel and you don't know what I'm talking about, keep watching. You'll see a lot of it. A lot of complainings about the methodical vomit inducing techniques. Yeah. Golly, this glove is stiff. I haven't used it on this hand. Let me get a better one that's not so stiff. And yes, if it's too stiff, it distracts from the Flintknapping. Is this good enough? Yeah, it's good. A little bit softer. Yeah, you don't want it distracting from the Flintknapping. I didn't grind this side because it looks like I'm just pressing on some sharp edges. It pressure flakes well, this stuff. Of course, you don't need to know how it pressure flakes and all that because you're never going to get a hold of this kind of stuff. Nope. It's very rare. Not going to do you any good to know how to nap it because you'll never get to nap it. It's just high quality Dacite. That's all it is. And you guys can get a hold of that. It's regular gray, high quality Dacite. Don't get a hold of the poor quality gray Dacite. Yeah, no need for that. There's plenty of the good quality stuff. But some people that offer the low quality, they don't know it's low quality, so you end up with low quality. They don't know. They just think if it's Dacite, it's good. They don't know. Or maybe they do know and they pretend they don't. I don't know. But not all Dacite is good quality stuff. In case you didn't know. Some people don't know. Yep. They are not aware. They tell me, I was not aware of that. I was not aware. Now you are aware. Oh, so nice. I don't know, was I down here when I struck it off? Or was I up here? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention because I'm trying to flake it, right? If I look in the viewfinder too much, I can't flake it properly. Or correctly, I was going to say. Alright. What do we got? A less than perfect platform, but a very productive flake. And I'm using steel. Some people say, well, I can probably get antler. Why don't I just get a bunch of antler? I'm right in the middle of Texas, right? Almost. I should be able to get plenty of antler. Well, luckily I have a friend in San Angelo who gave me a bunch of antler because I gave him some arrowheads I made. So it's a good trade. But you don't know how fast, you have no idea how fast I blow through antler. Nope. You just don't know. Because I work tough materials. I work tough materials because that's what I got. I don't want to work only obsidian with antler and only heat treats with antler. I try working some of the toughest stuff of all with the antler. And you know what I found out? It eats the antler for lunch. How did they used to do it back in the day then? You'll ask. How did they do it? Well, they must have used up a ton of antler if that's what they were using. What else is there to use, you might ask? They could probably get extremely good with hammerstones and get it down to where it's very thin with hammerstone and just pressure flake the rest of it with bone, antler, or horn. They don't do any billet work at all. I'm thinking that they didn't do much billet work at all. Just hammerstone and pressure. But I use a lot of antler for my indirect percussion. And I wear it down extremely fast. And sometimes I crack it. Especially the moose. The moose percussion flakers have a tendency to crack and split on me. Whitetail is the toughest. That hardly ever cracks or splits on me. If it's thick. The thin pieces, yeah, they'll crack and split. Like the antler tines. But if you get a nice hefty whitetail beam, it doesn't crack as much as the tines. But those hefty whitetail beams demand a high price or a very valuable trade, because there are knife makers that value the very large whitetail beams for the knife handles, because I imagine it fetches a nice price if it's got a good whitetail handle, because they're not so common. They're competing. The flint knappers have to compete with other people for the flint knapping tools, materials. Flint knapping tool material. You might ask, why don't you just go hunting then? Well, believe it or not, it's cheaper for me to do a purchase or a trade than to get a deer hunting. It's a lot less expensive. Yeah. Both in time and money. So I'd rather do the trades or the purchases. Yep. Some people ask, am I applying pressure this way? Nope. Sometimes you'll notice that there is a bit of movement, but that's when I need to seat it well. And that's not very often, because what happens is, if I seat it and push against it really hard and I'm about to strike, sometimes it'll slip off just as I'm winding down into the strike, and I'll hit the workpiece, because the workpiece will be up closer, and it'll, you know, I want to hit low down near the tip of the percussion tool, but sometimes if it slips, this workpiece goes into the area where the mallet is striking. So I'll hit the workpiece and it'll snap it. So I don't put pressure usually, unless it's a really tough workpiece or I have no other choice. Sometimes to drive a long flake, I push, and then I make sure I'm very careful with the strike. Yeah, so pressure assisted percussion is a thing. I try not to use it because it's not worth it. I'd rather just get shorter flakes than try for the longer flakes and risk breaking the whole thing. But yeah, the longer flakes are accomplished with some pressure assist. Or just hitting it really hard like I did just then. I hit it really hard, but it didn't go all the way, did it? I still got the crackly, steppy stuff going on. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to get it thin as possible for the video. Yeah, make it interesting. It's not that risky in terms of breaking it. What's risky is trying to make it look nice. That's the risky part right now. I don't think I'm in too much of a risk right now of breaking the whole thing. The risk is making it nice and smooth. I might not be able to make it nice and smooth if I keep going. Yeah, so that's good. That's good for the thinning. Yeah. I got one area I don't like, but I'll wait to see if I can get it later. If I try it now, I'll need to hit really, really hard. As it gets more narrow, it gets easier to run flakes into the middle or past halfway a little bit. I don't like this island little thing going on right there in the middle. But it's right in the middle, center mass. That's the easiest place to snap the whole thing in half, by sending a big old flake through center mass. Yeah. In case you didn't know. This is itchy. I don't know what this is about this particular type of obsidian. Or maybe it's just too hot. Maybe it's just too hot in here and everything's irritating. Even the little itchy things. Yeah, that normally don't bug me. Alright. Now we go to pressure. Let's improve the quality of the steel tip. This is just a 16 penny nail. I use it because it's cheap and easy. And I don't need to pound this to work harden it like I do with copper. Copper a lot of times is too soft for effective pressure flaking. Believe it or not, it's not as soft as antler, but somehow antler works pretty good. You don't know what the dynamics, I don't know the physics behind why antler is so good for pressure flaking. It just is. Anyway, if sometimes copper is too soft to run the kind of pressure flakes you want, especially if you grind the edge a lot. Some guys grind the edge a lot so they can get the long flakes. They want to be able to put a lot of pressure on the edge. And when you would need to put a lot of pressure on the edge to run those long flakes, you need to grind it down when you're using metals. Now, antler is a little bit different. You don't need to grind it so much, or you need to grind it in a way that's different than grinding it for the metal. I don't know the exact differences. And even if I told you, your method's not going to match what I'm telling you. Yeah, because you'll find that your particular method is going to be slightly different, usually. You'll say, no, I don't use antler that soft. Or no, I don't use antler that hard. Like, I don't need to use whitetail. I'll use something else. I'll use cow horn. Yeah. I had a little cow horn from Mexico. Souvenir. I'm just citing an example, right? I'm just pretending to be someone that uses cow horn, right? He might say, yeah, I got a Mexican cow horn many years ago and it's sitting in my closet. And I said, you know, I can use that for pressure flaking. Just cut strips out of it. It's broken because the mouthpiece is cracked or whatever. So, some guy is out there using the cow horn. Some guy's using the hard whitetail. Some guy using elk antler. Some guy's using the pet store antler chews. Some guys using the axis deer antler. Some guys are using cow bone. Some guys are using elk bone, deer bone. All these bones and antlers and stuff have slightly different consistencies. Some use nothing but moose. Even for pressure flakers, moose tines just, you know, cut up into strips or whatever. So even if I tell you how to get a platform ready for antler, it might not pertain to your antler. You might not even be using antler. You say, no, I'm strictly buffalo horn. That's it for me. Nope. No antler. Buffalo horn. There's nothing wrong with it, but the way you're knapping is going to be slightly different. It's going to look, you're going to get the same result. You're just going to look, I mean, you're just going to feel differently when you're knapping. You'll get, you know, the same result, just different tool. Some guy will say, yeah, I can get super long flakes with buffalo horn. And then there's somebody else out there that gets the same exact flakes with white-tailed deer. And he'll say, well, I get super long flakes with whitetail antlers. Oh yeah, well my super long flakes are more super long than yours. And my super long flakes have super signatures that yours don't. Yeah. You can play that game if you want. I don't care. I'm not going to play that game. So that's what it is. It's all just a game. There's more than one way to make exactly the same flake. And those are significantly different ways to make the same flake. And how are they significantly different? Because of the learning curve. If there's a difference in how long it takes for you to learn one thing or the other, if you can't automatically switch from one to the other, there's a significant difference in the learning curve. So that means there's a significant difference in the technique. So even though the flakes look the same, the methods are significantly different. So you don't know how the flakes were made in the past. All you can do is get a 50-50 chance of being correct at best. Usually it's not even that good. And I've been thinking and thinking and thinking about why these points are kind of similar to each other in one area. Did the Flintknappers copy each other? You know, rigidly, did they rigidly copy each other? I'm thinking about that, and I'm looking at the other aspects of their culture. And if you believe that all the Flintknappers were very rigid and copied each other, they weren't copying each other as far as their war paint on their faces. As an example, everyone had unique war paint. Everyone had unique shields. The designs on their shields, the medicine or the spirit forces, all different. In their clothing, the way they wore their hair, facial paint. So why not the weapons? So with the differences in they had independent thinking. I'm of the opinion that there were not very many Flintknappers. And all the points you see in one area, I think were most likely made by 1 or 2 or 3 Flintknappers. Not 20, 30, 40, 50 Flintknappers. Just a few. Because the more people you have in a culture that's very individualistic, the more designs and variations you're going to have. And there weren't that many designs and variations in the same area. That's how they can, you know, judge what point types there are, or even have the basis for distinguishing between point types. They're very similar. So I'm thinking more and more now that there were fewer and fewer nappers producing hundreds and hundreds of points every year. I mean, very prolific, very productive, but very few nappers. That's my position now. I used to think there were thousands and thousands of nappers producing thousands and thousands of points, but I don't think that anymore. I'm thinking fewer nappers producing even more points per napper. You know, like cranking out 2,000 points a year. That kind of thing. What would it take to crank out 2,000 points a year? Well, if you did 10 points a day, that's over 300, or over 3,600. If you do 10 points a day. If you do 5 points a day, that's half of that. So between 5 and 10 points a day, you can easily do 2,000 points in a year. That's a lot. You know, that's if you're only doing flint knapping. And they might have supported the flint knappers, just like they supported some of the other craftsmen. Which means, you know, give them free food. They might have. Probably did in the larger societies. They supported the craftsmen with free food, so the craftsmen could focus, especially for ceremonial stuff, for the religion. Do you make arrowheads for the religion? Well, blades, yes. I don't know about arrowheads, but certainly blades. Knife blades, big blades. Ceremonial big blades. I think they were given free food so they can focus on making those ceremonial big blades that were pleasing to the gods, right? They're so pleasing that the gods must like them too, right? Right. I don't know. But anyway, makes a little bit of sense. So yeah, I'm thinking that there weren't that many knappers nowadays. And yeah, I thought about it a lot. And I changed my opinion. Because I'm intellectually weak. I'm not supposed to change your opinion, man, over time. That means you're not loyal. You ain't loyal to your original ideas. Something's wrong there. Makes all your previous statements obsolete. You ain't consistent. Yeah, well, you got to change your opinion if something doesn't pan out. I mean, it doesn't seem like with independent thinking that you would have a lot of the same type of point in one area. You know, it would seem like there'd be a lot of different variations. And there are sometimes many variations on one point type. So I'm not saying there weren't. So I guess the formula is the more variations in the point type you have, the more knappers are probably in that area. But if the point type is very consistent in that area, then there's probably fewer knappers. That's the formula that I'm thinking existed back then. Same like today. The more knappers you have today, the more variation in the points you got. So it can be supported by experimental archaeology. How easy is it to get a bunch of knappers to make the same exact point? Even with today's helpful aids in knapping, like templates and photographs and dimensions and very descriptive language. Scientific studies, in fracture mechanics, and all the stuff that can help you. Even with all that, how easy is it to get a bunch of knappers to make the same design and look just like one guy made them all? I suppose it would be easier if they all consulted each other constantly and say, how's this look? How's this look? Here, get a load of this. How does that look? And then make corrections. Everyone make corrections on everybody else. That means that we had to get together in groups quite a bit. I don't know. I think family life back in the day required family units to be kind of working together, but separately working together as a family unit, like the mom and the dad and the kids together working as a family unit, rather than all the dads working together and all the moms working together and all the kids working together separately. and not part of family units, but kind of in groups. I don't think they worked in groups very much. I don't know. Maybe they did. If they did, in that case, it'd be easy to compare points and get them standardized. But working together in groups is a little bit more difficult because you got to get them all together. It's difficult to organize meetings than it is just to do it on the fly or do it as you need to just by yourself whenever the chance appears, instead of having to try to make the group meeting show up to the group meeting. Just like showing up to work. But who knows? I think maybe humans work better in groups than by themselves. By themselves, they tend to goof off. Instead of napping, you search and surf the internet if you're by yourself. But if you're with a group of nappers at a nap-in, you actually sit down and nap for 6 hours straight. Maybe. So I don't know. I don't find it easier to nap with a group. I seem to nap about the same amount of time, either when I'm with a group or not. A lot of times when I'm with a group, there's things that distract me from napping, like showing people what to do, or answering questions, or just watching someone else that's napping better. How's he doing that? So I'm in the napping group, but instead of napping, I'm watching. So if I'm watching, I'm not making. Yeah. Even experienced nappers will watch other nappers. Especially if they got something slick over there, like a Napomatic 5000 or whatever they call some of those indirect percussion devices. They started popping up everywhere. Yeah, even this. Let's see. I don't like it. Let me see. I don't know. I can do a little bit better on this edge, I think. See how wonky it is when I grind it. You can see how wonky it is. I can do a little bit better. Yep. All right, let's see. Better, but without snapping it in half. Let's get a little bit thinner. A little bit more consistent. Maybe get a median ridge going. Maybe. On both sides, a little median ridge near the tip couldn't hurt. I like to have a little median ridge near the tip. You know, random down here and shooting across, but near the tip, a little median ridge on both sides. I like it if I can manage it. If not, then random is good too. Just because I don't have to worry about it. It's just random. Not much thought involved in getting the flakes close together without messing them up and overshooting past the middle. Is that good enough, or is it too lumpy still? It's lumpy in the transition point where I have the hardest time. Right there in that area between the body and the point, that's when I have the most trouble. So right now you can see that's where I got the lumps. If I start to try to eliminate those lumps, it's going to constrict right there and get indented. And that's what I don't like. I don't like it when it starts to do that. I'm going to work on this edge a little bit too. I did already on this side, and I'm going to do the other side. Just a little bit more because I can't stand it. I can't stand the little lump. It pressure flakes so easily. Yes, it does. I will say that for this material. Holy moly, it's good. Yeah. Did I get rid of some of the lump? No. Still there. I'm avoiding it. See that? It's lumpy on both sides. But oh well. I'm going to leave it. I just wanted to work on that edge. Get it a little bit sharper. Put some bulbs in that edge. I'm trying to. I don't want no powdery areas, so I'm tending to just pressure flake downward so I'm not crushing. The more you push inward, the more chance of crushing and leaving a white powdery residue. So what kind of base on this? I don't know. I'm going to invent one. How's that? I don't care. What kind of stem, what kind of base, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just go with the flow. How's that? I'll start the notches, and whatever it ends up being, I'll try to match it on the other side. I got kind of an idea what I want to do. Yes, yes. Okay. Not too hard. I need to sharpen it. Yes, I do. It's dull. All right. It's dull, and when it's dull, the area to remove flakes gets fatter. The fatter it is, the more pressure needed to remove a flake. The more pressure you use, the higher the risk of snapping off the barb. That's the progression of the logic. The wider the tool, the wider the initiation. The wider the initiation, the more pressure needed to initiate the flake. The more pressure needed, the higher the risk of blowing away the barb, or snapping it across the neck, or blowing off an ear, or making some sort of mistake. Can Flintknapping teach you logic? Yes. I bent this earlier, but I don't want to bend it back because then it widens the wooden hole. Yeah. The more times I bend this back and forth, the wider the hole gets, and then it loosens the tip. This is only down into the wood about 3/4 of an inch. Or maybe, yeah, about 3/4. It's not that far in because I'm not using all that much pressure on these arrowheads. Or at little dart points. I'm trying not to use a lot of pressure when I do the notching and stuff. On anything. Just the minimum that I can get away with. I don't know if this is working. Okay, yeah. No? Golly, I gotta be very careful. If I'm not very careful, it stalls. I gotta make sure I get a pop out without a blowout. Pop out without blowout. Yeah, pop out like that without a blowout. Where did it do? There. See, it's risky because the pop out is big. It'll take off the barb if it's too big. If it's too much pressure, you're in big trouble. Oh yes, that's excellent. It pressure flakes nicely. This pressure flake is in at the angle, okay? Not up this way, because then you'll blow out the barb. Why isn't it focused? Go in this way, and then you'll thin it out there. You don't have to worry too much about this side, but this side is where you have to worry because you're going up this way with the notch. But blow out this way so you get part of it thin to continue going upward. The notch will go in a little bit, but my goal is to try to go as upward as I can without blowing away the barb. The delicate walk up the side, like walking on the edge of a cliff. I shouldn't have said that because the visual is pretty nasty. Yes, it's working a little bit. I don't know, it seems like I might have already blown away some of that barb. Seems like my progression is rather slow. See, the notch is following the edge. All right, so you want to do that. You don't want to get closer to the edge because then it'll really blow out the barb, no matter how careful you are. Right? Right. So delicate. I still got to do the other side. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get too carried away on this side because then I got to match it on the other side. my chances of symmetry go way down the more delicate it gets on that one side. I don't want to ruin my chances for symmetry. Hold on while I repair the edge a little bit now before it gets too late and I forget. I can't do this thinning of the edge when it's got a barb on it. I can do it, but it's not as easy. It has a chance of eliminating the barb. Come on. Let's see. Make this edge a little less wonky, that way it's a little stronger. Is it sharp? Kind of, sort of. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'll work on the symmetry as I go. The barb is going to start down here somewhere. It's good to start a little bit lower than you need. Ooh, it's already an hour. Sweet. I don't need to talk too much more to try to fill up the time. It's already over an hour. Most of you guys, 90% are already snoring. Yep. You didn't know they had a snoring metric in the analytics? You didn't know? Yeah? No, I'm kidding. That'd be interesting if they had snore metrics. They can probably do it too, because they can be sneaky and use the camera on your computer or phone to see if you're snoring. Turn it on and see. Did you fall asleep? Just for a second. That's what we just want to check, just for a second. You won't mind if, you know, we just check. It only takes 1 millisecond to turn the camera on and off to check to see if he's asleep. Yep. If it's just a little sneak, it's not a privacy violation. It's just a little bitty half a millisecond sneak. Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? No. That would not be awesome at all. But I bet you they do it. Sometimes. Just a harmless little peek. You know? It's such a harmless word too. We just peeked. That's all we did. Just a little bit of peek. A little bit of peek. $400 times a day. But it's just a little peeks every time. That's it. Yeah. Anyway, you don't want to think about that stuff. But it's coming. If it's not already here. Because they can do it. Yep. They can turn over your private information. to any government intelligence agency that asks. Yeah. Scary. Why is it scary? Because it could be unintentional. You could say something that you mean something else, but it sounds like something else, and they just take a sneak peek and, yep, you said it. It's right there. We don't know the context because we just did a sneak peek, but it's bad enough. Just with that little sneak peek, it's bad enough. You're in trouble. How do we know? Oh, we ain't telling, but we know. We know you did it. Yeah. Can't deny it because we know. What type of point is that? I don't know. It's an elephino. It's an elephino point. Yeah. It's a combination of an elephant point and a rhino point. Elephino point. Is that getting old yet? I've said that a lot of times already. I just like it. I don't know if that black background works better or not. It's not black, it's all splotchy. Yeah, I know. I don't know how to get it to be all black unless I split the pad with two different types of leather. Yeah. One black leather pad, half, and the other natural. What am I doing? I'm making the point more pointy. More pointy. Yep. You're pointifying the pointy tip? Yeah. Pointifying it. Defying physics by pointifying it more. Just so we can break off in the quiver. Yep. That's why they did it. They wanted all their points to have broken tips when they got to the hunt. Yeah. By the time I get there, all the tips are broken off. That's why they do these little extra pointifying knappings. I don't know. I'm not doing that great of a job of keeping the side profile nice and thin. Oh, here we go. Symmetry. From the side. Did it work a little bit? I don't know. Probably not. I suppose. Yeah, I won't mess with it anymore. It's pointy enough. Yep, that's it. Cinnamon dacite. Now, does it fit on a little dart tip? Let's see. Let's see if it's consistent with the other ones. Yeah, see? I don't know how I make it fit into my little dart point foreshaft every time. I had no idea. It's nice and straight. How do you do it? I don't know. I don't know how I do it. I didn't even check. But yeah, just wrap it. Just easy peasy. More cinnamon. More cinnamon. Let's do some more cinnamon after this. This was not bad because it was easy to flake. Although I did sweat a little bit when running the big bold flakes through the center to eliminate the islands. I did sweat. It was a sweat stage. And the edge work, sometimes it was a sweat stage because it's so easy to take a bite out of the edge if you push too hard. Because this is kind of delicate. But I like the way the median ridge turned out on this side. Let's see. That side just a little bit. Yeah, I already scooped out too much with bold flakes. You kind of do need a thick tip to run a median ridge effectively. So yeah, I like it. It's not as translucent as I thought it was going to be, because I picked up a flake earlier. It looked nice and translucent, but it's not thin enough. Yeah. Alrighty. More cinnamon. Beautiful. Okay, that's it.